Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to Tuesday's meeting. If you could please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. City Clerk, may you do the roll, please?
Mayor Ibarra,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Lopez, Councilmember Larios,
Present.
Councilmember Merlo. You have a quorum.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda? May I
I'll
have a
move.
second? From a move from Mayor Pro Tem Davis and a second from Councilmember Lopez. City Clerk?
I'll call the roll to approve the agenda. Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios,
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo.
Thank you. Now we'll take public comment from members of the audience. If you would like to provide a comment through Zoom, please click the raise hand button. Are there any public comment?
No.
As I see none in the audience, we'll now move on to public hearings. Agenda item number 1 is a public hearing regarding the transmission revenue requirement and transmission revenue balancing account adjustment for 2022. Public Utilities General Manager Alan Moo will present the item.
Thank you. Good morning, the Honorable Mayor and Council members. BPU is requesting approval of 2 resolutions, transmission revenue requirement and transmission revenue requirement balancing account adjustment. It's a long word. Combined public hearing notice was published on September 30th, 2021 and October 7, 2021. These 2 resolutions are, they work in tandem. They're just, part of 2 parts of the same thing. In a way of background, today marks the 20th anniversary of Vernon becoming a participating transmission owner with the ISO. So we've been doing this for the last 20 years. We became a participating transmission owner with the ISO in 2001. Back to the agenda item. The first one is the transmission revenue requirement. What's that? Well, Vernon still has long-term transmission service contracts. One with Edison, the other one with LADWP. And Vernon pays transmission service charges to both entities. So that's standing. When Vernon became a participating transmission owner, which is also called PTO with the California ISO, it turned over operational control of this transmission contracts to the ISO. By turning over the transmission contract to the ISO made it available to its market participants. So it's no longer for use of just Vernon, it became for use of everybody else in the ISO market, including Vernon. So, the people who, the entities that are responsible for paying for the cost would be everyone in the ISO system. So the TRR, CalISO charges these market participants based on established rates, and those rates are approved by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. Every year, Vernon files how much this amount is, which needs to be recovered from the ISO members, and it files it by November 1st of every year. One limitation on this one is a PTO like Vernon cannot recover more than the filed transmission revenue requirement. So whatever amount we're filing today, that's what's allowed for recovery throughout the year. That's why we have the second part of this, which is called the adjustment clause. Any excess revenue above and beyond the filed TRR, they would have to be returned to the ISO. ISO will, distribute, those revenues to, the market participants. So Vernon does this by way of what's called the transmission revenue requirement adjustment clause. Revenues which qualify for this kind of treatment are, one of the examples is called a wheeling charge. Basically, an entity, let's say from Arizona, they're not in the ISO, they bring power, but they use the ISO system, system of transmissions, but they exit the ISO system. So it's called a wheeling through. So ISO will charge those entities, but returns all of that revenue back to the market participants. If Vernon received any of those payments, would have to give it back to the ISO. So ISO will distribute it back to the market participants. Sometimes there are revenues that an entity that's trying to construct new transmission lines, they put deposits with the ISO, intending to construct new transmission lines. But it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't go through. So there are non-refundable fees, which that entity paid. Those non-refundable payments by that entity go back to the ISO participants. In the event Vernon received those kind of revenues, Vernon would have to return those revenues. That returning of excess revenue is done through the transmission adjustment clause, which is the TRBAA. So what we do is we have a calculated transmission revenue requirement, which equals our payment to Edison and LADWP. We adjust it for any additional or excess revenues, and the net is what we claim or file with, with FERC by November 1st. And along with the net transmission revenue requirement, we file, what's called, load or our demand. ISO uses those numbers as they calculate, the system-wide rate to be charged. To give you, in a way of an example, for calendar year 2022, which is this filing, the TRR gross is $3,249,504. The adjustment, which is a reduction to the TRR, will be, which is the second resolution, $35,959. So the net TRR, Vernon is, requesting for approval is $3,213,545. This figure will be used by the ISO in its determination of what's called a transmission access charge. Just in a way of information, Vernon is also a market participant, so basically pays the ISO's transmission access charge. So as we buy power from the ISO, we're subject to that, rate, the tariff, which is called the transmission access charge. Vernon submits all of this information through the docket amendment, which is called Appendix I for these purposes. These numbers are reflected in the Appendix I, and with City Council approval, both the TRR and the TRBA will be filed, with FERC by our outside counsel. That is in the nutshell, how the two resolutions work in tandem. The fiscal impact of this resolution will be to keep Vernon, whole in terms of recovering its cost of transmission cost. That concludes my presentation, and I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you, General Manager Lemieux. Do any members of the City Council have questions of staff at this time? I'll now open the public hearing. If any members of the public would like to speak on this matter, please come to the podium or click the raise hand button. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and business affiliation, if any. Are there any Zoom speakers?
There are none, no.
I see that there's no public comment in the chamber. I'll now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Does the City Council have any questions of staff at this time? Seeing as all questions have been addressed, I hereby close the public hearing and open council deliberations. Once deliberations are completed, I will entertain a motion. Is there a motion for this item?
I'll move.
Is there a second? From a motion from Councilmember Lopez and second from Mayor Pro Tem Davis, City Clerk, roll call.
Motion is to adopt resolution number 2021-32, adopting a revised transmission revenue requirement for 2022, and adopt resolution number 2021-33, establishing a transmission revenue balancing account adjustment for 2022. I'll call the roll. Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now go on to consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion. Items may be removed from the consent calendar by any member of the council. Those items removed will be considered immediately after the consent calendar. Does council wish to pull any items from the consent calendar? Are there any public comments for the consent calendar? Anything on Zoom?
No.
May I have a motion for consent calendar items number 2 to 11?
I'll
Ma'am.
second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, seconded by Councilmember Larios to approve the consent calendar. Mayor Ibarra.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now go on to new business. Agenda item number 12 is Resource Adequacy Plan for 2022. Public Utilities General Manager Alamu will present this item.
Thank you. It's my lucky day.
Yes.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, thank you again. The California Independent System Operator, which is also known as the CAISO, is responsible for the overall grid resource adequacy plan. In order to meet its mandate, it's the ISO's mandate, but to meet that mandate, the CAISO in turn requires load serving entities such as Vernon to secure sufficient resources to meet their customers' demand. So pursuant to CAISO tariff, load serving entities such as Vernon must provide an annual resource adequacy demonstration or plan that includes 1, a coincident peak demand forecast, 2, planning reserve margin, 3, qualifying capacity criteria, 4, a list of resource adequacy resource that will be counted on to satisfy its local capacity requirements, and 5, the flexible resource adequacy capacity requirement, and 6, the annual and monthly resource adequacy and supply, adequate resource adequacy and supply data. Consistent with the CAISO tariff requirements, the staff has prepared the City of Vernon Public Utilities Department Resource Adequacy Plan for 2022. The staff recommended that the City Council approve the Resource Adequacy Plan for 2022 and authorize the staff to submit the report and accompanying data template to the CAISO. The fiscal impact at this, is there's no fiscal impact. It's just a compliance filing. This concludes my presentation. I'm open for any question you may have.
Thank you. Does council have any technical questions for staff? Are there any public comments on Zoom?
No.
Seeing that there's no public comment, may I have a motion for this item?
I'll move.
May I have a second?
Motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Merlo to adopt resolution number 2021-35, approving and adopting the Vernon Public Utilities Department Resource Adequacy Plan for 2022 and authorizing staff to submit the plan to monthly resource adequacy and supply data to CAISO. Mayor Ibarra.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to
Thank
oral
you.
report. City Administrator Fandino.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Some notable police department activities. On October 17th, Vernon Police Department officers investigated a single vehicle rollover traffic collision in the 4700 block of district. Unfortunately, the driver of the catering truck succumbed to his injuries after colliding into 2 street signs, a fire hydrant, and 2 trees and a power pole. Great California Shakeout at 10:21 a.m. on October 21st. Vernon City Hall, along with millions of Californians, will participate in the Great California Shakeout. The Vernon Police Department, in partnership with LA County Fire, will help lead all city staff and visitors to City Hall through the drill. The Shakeout includes an evacuation of City Hall facilities and a search and rescue simulation. Reminder that COVID-19 vaccines are still available. With Stacy Medical have continued to, the health department and Stacy Medical have continued to administer the COVID-19 vaccines to the public by stationing the city's mobile vaccine unit on Pacific Avenue. Just as a reminder, the mobile unit is available to offer vaccine doses Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Since August 17th, a total of approximately 251 vaccines have been administered, including 54 booster doses. Halloween Spooktacular. This year's Spooktacular Community Outreach event is scheduled to take place on Thursday, October 28th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the City Hall lawn. Special activities, pumpkin giveaways, trick-or-treating, a giant inflatable slide, raffle prizes, and free food will be offered to all attendees. The city continues to monitor COVID-19 and will ensure that the event activities are coordinated in accordance to recommended safety guidelines. We hope to see you there. Additionally, the city is inviting all residents to share photos of themselves in the finest Halloween costumes and the residential Halloween decorations to be entered into the chance for the spectacular raffle prizes. Photo entries must be received by October 27th. Southern California Curling Center Halloween event. They will be hosting a free trunk or treat event for the community on Saturday, October 30th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Candy handouts will take place between 12 and 12:45, and games activities will be hosted from 12:45 to 1:30 p.m. The entire COVID-friendly event will be held outside. All community members and families are invited, and kids are welcome to attend in costume. And that's all I have.
Thank you. If there's no other further reports, we'll now go on to closed session items number 13 to 15 and enjoy the Dodger game tonight. Go Dodgers. We need this game.